Hello there and welcome to bnettv.com. I'm Michelle Sklar. We're here at the CTIA Wireless and Entertainment Show at the Moscone Center in San Francisco. I am joined by Daniel Csoka of ACOS. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Michelle, for having us. We're excited to be here. It's obviously San Francisco at this time of year. To have this kind of weather is just beautiful. The conference is going extremely well, and we're excited about the opportunities that we have ahead of us.
Well, fantastic. We'd like to learn more about that. Why don't you start off by telling us about your company?
Sure. So ACOS basically is creating a virtual Western Union targeting the unbanked with mobile remittances. The concept is we're marrying wireless services and money transfer technology, allowing a wireless subscriber the ability to send funds internationally from their mobile device, where the recipient picks up those funds in cash at merchants they already frequent.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit for
Sure.
our audience. First of all, where am I accessing my funds from that I want to send?
Okay, very good question. Today in the United States, the prepaid industry is a large industry that has the wireless carriers already have the distribution points in place for the individuals to add funds to their phone account. When you look at the remittance market in general, it's a $300 billion market. The people who send money are cash-based, unbanked, but they have a mobile device. It's a prepaid mobile device. So we're able to tap into the wireless carriers who have high concentrations of the demographics that we're sending the funds to their prepaid subscriber base and access the funds that they've already loaded onto their wireless phone.
So what you're saying is that essentially my cell phone or my cell phone account is acting like a bank account?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, what do I need to do to now send that money to the recipient?
So we have there's a myriad of technologies that can be used, whether it's a WAP GUI or an SMS or an IVR message, but typically the individual sending funds internationally is unbanked and cash-based and typically is more of a migrant worker, so the high advanced technology is really not the best play. So we have a simple IVR application, the voice activated, that they can walk them through the system to initiate the transfer to the loved one in Mexico.
So when the money's being sent, how am I going to get access to it? Am I going to a facility?
You don't need to. A simple phone call from your mobile device.
Okay.
So
and then where does the money end up in order for me to actually access the cash if I don't have a bank account?
Correct. Very good question. So ours is the only approach out there in the marketplace today that we've patented. We filed 11 patents in the last year and a half that allows you to send funds from a mobile device to cash in the receiving country without having to create a separate bank account or any financial tool. Because basically, the carrier has your funds stored in a stored value account on your cell phone. And we're able to dip into that, decrement those funds, and deliver those funds in cash at merchants through our extensive ecosystem in the recipient country, where the recipients will be able to go to provide a transaction number and a picture ID, just like they do at Western Union today, and pick up the funds in cash there.
So is there any sort of software application that I would need to have on my mobile device, or it's just something happening through the carriers?
The beauty of it is that it requires no infrastructure changes or any downloads or software applications. A simple IVR call will allow any subscriber in the United States to access the money transfer mechanism and transfer the funds from that.
Okay, so essentially the relationships that you're needing to build are with carriers, and with merchants.
And with the merchants.
Okay, tell us a little bit about what that experience has been like for you.
Sure. So we've taken the last 2.5 years in building our complex and vibrant and living ecosystem with the wireless carriers here in the United States, the financial institutions in the United States, and our first target market is the U.S. to Mexico market. It's a $24 billion market. So we have the experience, and we put together, in fact, the first loyalty program in Mexico. We have the financial transactions, the financial institutions, the transactions network. A company called Prosa, for instance, is the largest electronic transactions network in Latin America. They process nearly 3 million transactions a day. In fact, they're the 7th largest in the world. And their distribution network, owned by 5 banks, and their merchants that are part of that network, is the extensive ecosystem that allows the individual to pick up the funds in cash in the recipient country.
So you said that you recently signed on with you got your first carrier.
That's correct.
Can you tell us who you're working with?
Yes, we're working with a carrier out of Southern California and Southern Arizona, ClearTalk Wireless. A smaller carrier, but they're the exact demographic. 100% of their customers are U.S., Mexican, they're all prepaid, and they all send money back to Mexico. We are close to announcing our first major Tier 1 wireless carrier. We expect it to happen in the next 30 days, and we'll be able to roll out service in the summer of 2008.
Now, certainly the Mexican market is going to offer you an ample population to market your product to. What about beyond that?
Correct. So the U.S. to Mexico demographic is a $24 billion market. The U.S. to Latin America is a $62 billion market, which is the largest remittance corridor in the world. And then, of course, China and India. Anytime you have 1 billion people doing anything, you're typically going to be number 1 or number 2 in terms of market size.
What are some of the challenges that you anticipate? Because it's one thing going from the U.S. market into Mexico, but if you're looking at going, into the Chinese market, that's a whole other ball game. Have you sort of put some forethought into how you're looking at penetrating that market?
Correct. So we've actually been contacted by some of the financial institutions, for instance, in India, the second largest financial institution. They control, I believe, 25% market share of remittances in India, as well as international and global merchant services and merchant processors that are able to give us that global distribution.
Okay, now my last question, of course, and I'm sure it's going to be one that you get asked a lot. I know our audience is very curious about these types of things. Security.
Yes.
How can I make sure the money is not going to wind up in the wrong place?
Regulatory compliance is the #1 barrier to entry for other companies trying to get into this mobile payments, mobile remittance space specifically. So for the last 2.5 years, we have dealt from the beginning, from day one. We've built the technology, designed the technology, the methodology with the regulatory compliance in mind. In fact, not only do we meet and exceed all current regulatory, whether it's FinCEN, OFAC, Bank Secrecy Act, Patriot Act, the list goes on, but in many cases we raise the bar. And the compliance experts in the U.S. are telling us that our approach will become the de facto standard by which all the other money transfer mechanisms are judged against. For instance, Western Union today, I can send $999 at Western Union and not even show a picture ID. Western Union has no relationship with that customer, has no idea who he is. Well, with its cell phone, #1, if you have the cell phone on, they can track you within 100 feet. #2, they can assess all of your calling patterns and all of your relationships and all the people that you're dealing with. #3, from a technology perspective, we're able to track every transaction in terms of how much money you're sending, how often you're sending, and to whom.
And is it a user-friendly experience where insofar as if there is a hiccup that happens along the way, not even so much from the sending, but the receiving end of things, do you have some type of, sort of call center or helpline or that type of thing that
Absolutely.
can sort of walk people through reconciling any issues?
Absolutely. In fact, we envision that the first few transactions we will not charge a fee for to get the customers familiar with the process. And many of those first initial transactions will require call center support, which we have in place. But the beauty of it is after the first transfer, we're able to link the mobile number with the recipient's picture ID number, driver's license number, voter ID number, social security card number, so the second transaction is completely seamless.
Right. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. That was very interesting, and we certainly wish you the best of luck with your endeavors. It sounds like it's going to be very successful. We've been speaking with Daniel Csoka of ACOS here at the CTIA Wireless and Entertainment Show, and I'm Michelle Sklar for BNetTV.com.
Thank you.